welcome to our next tutorial on Contorur programming. So I'm just going to take you through a simple program which you do on board. So basically this tutorial is more for someone who has got the basics in engineering. So you must be knowing about blocking, you must be knowing about tools that you need in the engineering field, and you must be knowing about the tools and equipment again that you need when you do your work. So here with me I've got a nylon block which measures 65 by 80 by 40. So I've done a rough sketching on the book. We're going to make like a rectangular shape, of which our final sizes will be 60 by 70 by 30 millimeters. So which means on our thickness we have about 10 millimeters of overlay. So one thing you have to consider when you want to do the kind of blocking that I'm going to teach you, you have to consider the height of your parallels. How much gap are they going to leave from your vise, and of which I'll try to make sure that there is a clamping gap of 5 millimeters, so that we still have we're left with 35 from the top surface of the vise to the surface of our block. So the kind of blocking that we're going to do, we're going to machine the whole rectangular shape at once, and you get to some point where you can't be able to machine like that. You have to machine block it first to thickness, to width, then your length you need to like machine it if it involves the chamfers, if you're not going to use the chamfering tool and things like that. So in this case we're going to just do a normal rectangular shape, you know, but using a Contorur program. So as I taught you in the previous tutorial, on this one it's on manual. You can see that it shows manual, and I want to go to Contorur. You come here on the back, you press back, and the screen appears again to have your page that is put there. So I want to go to Contorur, which reflects here as F4. So I'll come here on the page, I'll press F4, and it has given me my Contorur page. So now I wanna and one thing that we have to consider is that where our datum is on this block. So let's say our datum is on the center of the block, on the center of 70 and on the center of 60. So we are on the center of the block. That's where when we do your center finding and you get to the center of that block so I've given the dimensions of the final product. So now to put your program you have to go on edit. You press edit, that's F1, and it gives you your programming page. So it shows you here on page 1 in Contorur. So in your own program number 1, so that's what you want. Unless you don't want to delete your previous program, you want to remain, you want to open a new program, you press, depends on whatever number you want. You can be 100, you type in 100. Let's say in this case we want program number 5, so I press 5, it appears there on top. And if I press enter, this is an enter button. I think I've left it on the previous tutorial, but this button with this arrow, it's your enter button. If you press enter, it opens. You can see that there was a previous program done. On this coordinate system, I always work it on, it's always on 0. I never change that. And this ABS on my machine, it remains on 0. And this INC, I don't know what's that for, but on mine it's always 1. So I'll just press enter up until this indicator comes down to the command. That's CMD, that's your command. That's where you put your points, your length, your counterclockwise and clockwise and stuff like that. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna delete the previous program. So I'll press F2 up until all is cleared up. That one doesn't clear up, it has to be cleared up by the new program that you put in. And So I'll go again on the bottom of the page. It says F3 is page up or page up, F4 is page down, and F5 that's end data. After you've done your program, you press F5, then it shows the end of the line where you want, or you can do 100 lines, but you want your machine to run up until the 30th line. So you press F5. And you go to you look at the F6 after you've done your program. If you press F6 on the C-Tek, it shows your drawing. That's the good thing about C-Tek. I haven't operated some or programmed some of the machines on board, but so far, as for me, I can say this is the most suitable or the most friendly machine, because it makes you see exactly what you're doing and where you're getting it wrong. So now we're gonna put a new program for this aluminum nylon block. So to start a new program, every program that it starts with a point, you need a point. So our point is gonna be point. If I press P, it appears P. It clears now the old program. So since we're starting from the center of our block, which is this one, that's the center of the block. But now we want our cutter to plunge from the outside and machine around here, but we are right from the center. And by the way, remember our block is 70 on length and 60 on width. So if I press X0, you can see it's X, Y, Z, that NR, and use the end one for radius if you're working with radiuses and in your program. So we're gonna say, okay, X is gonna be 0 in this case, and let's put it this way, that we're using a 10 millimeter diameter cutter. Let's say it's an end mill that we're using, a 10 millimeter end mill cutter. So in our program, that's gonna be in our block from where we are. It's gonna, let me take the drawing to make it easier for you. So in our block, if we're in the center here and we want to go here, so half of the 60 is gonna be 30, right? So you need to add in your program, you need to include 30 plus half the diameter of your cutter, because this is a stock material that you're having. So you remember that on the stock material we have 65, of which it's our material is overlapping on the other side with 2.5 millimeters. So it's gonna be 2.5 plus half the diameter of your cutter, which is 5, because you're gonna use a 10 millimeter cutter. So it makes it 7.5. But in total, add 10 millimeters to half of the block. So which is going to be 30 plus 10, then you just put 40 in order for you to be safe that your cutter will not plunge right on the job. So that's your first point. If you press enter and you don't want this last radius, it clears by just pressing enter. So now on our drawing, we want so you see on the C-Tek, when you do programming, it's more like drawing. It's like you are drawing the program that you want. If I press another point again, because we need a second point, that the first point was a plunging point. Now we're coming to the machining point, which X is going to be 0 again, but we're going to come exactly to the edge of our block. We're going to put the exact digit that we want there, which is going to be 30. Then I'll put length, because now it comes to the point. Now I'll put length, we want to go to this point. So we say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll come back to the origin. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna press L for length, and if I press enter again, so you press enter in order for you to go to the next line, to go to the next column. You press enter. Enter works the most in on board program. If you press, so in this case now we're gonna need half of 70, which is 35, because remember we're working from the center of the block, so everything has to be half of that block as you do your program. So if I press 35, and we're still on top of our block on this side, so we're still on the 30th side. You see, so we're not putting we're not gonna put radiuses on the edge of the block, so it's gonna, we don't need to consider a radius on the side. So I'll press length again, and we still, now we're on this, so we are from 2, now we're going to 0.3. So on our 0.3, our x is 35 and our y is on the negative side now. So we press 35 and we come minus 30. So we don't consider the middle, we go to the fourth position, the fourth point that we have put here. So on our fourth point, remember we are on the negative side now. So x is negative 35 and y is negative 30. So if you kind of confused on if your programming is right or wrong, you press F6. Remember, F6 is for drawing check. So if you press F6, it shows you the page that, or the drawing that you're making. So you can say, okay, you're getting there, your drawing is in right order. And remember, it's not showing here if because remember, put x0 y 40, but it's not showing that line coming down. It's because you've put the second point, so in the first point is more like invisible, it's like a plunging point, and your second point, that's where it starts making a drawing as per the program. So to remove the drawing page, so you press back, and now we go to the 50th position here on our drawing as we have put it. So on the drawing it's like this. On the screen we've got step number 6. So let's also call that step number 6. We still remember we on the left side, so our x is negative 35, and now we are on the positive side of y, so our y now becomes plus 30, and we're gonna, so you can, if I press F6 again, you can see that our drawing is not complete because we have to come back to this point again, which is gonna be, so mostly what I discovered, or what it is on Contorur, is that your last line goes with your first with your cutting point. So that you can see the first point was for plunging, and this is the cutting point. So whatever you put on your last line, on your cutting point, is what you're gonna put on your last line, which is 0, 30. And if I press F5, as I've gone through with you on the what's on the bottom of the page, F5 is end your data. So data end. If I press F5, it puts the E, stands for end. And if I press F6, now you can see that our drawing is complete. That's what according to what we want on our blog. And I'll go back. And as I go back again with our page, because now we need to program for our speeds, our feeds, our cutter diameters and things like that. So I'll go back, and you can see this page. Oh, it's quite confusing, but I'll take you through step by step so that you can have an understanding of each and every single line that we have there, where to put the programming and where not to. So on our first part of the page, we have got a 2 diameter. We said our 2 diameter is going to be 10. Remember from how we did our program, because your program as well, as you were putting those points and lines there, you were working according to your cutter diameter as well. Your cutter diameter was included in the first plunge, or in the first point. That's how we made the first point length. It was because of our consideration of the cutter diameter. So now on our cutter diameter, I'm going to put 10. On the 2 compensation, I put 2. The 2 compensation, I put 2. Then on the set final depth, remember we said our block has to be 30 in thickness, but our block now, from according to what I said, if I put it on the vise, is going to be from the surface of the vise, our block is going to be 35. And remember, I'm going to clean it on the surface, and your block has to be left, let's say it's still gonna be 35, so you still have 35 of the overlap, but your final size is 30. So let's just say you're gonna cut it to 31, so that when you face off the other side, you still have your cutter is passed through the required size that you want. So we put it on 31. You know, it's nylon. I mean, so it depends on what you're cutting and what are you using to cut. So I'm gonna use an end mill to cut nylon. So I mean, I can take 3mm cuts or even more. It depends on what you wanna do. But at the end, your finish, you also have to consider your finishing. So if I put my cutter, my Z cuts on 2, I'm guaranteed a good finish, because you can put it on 4 or 5, but you know that cutting gap, it's also gonna be some kind of rough, so your cutting is not gonna be that perfect. So on the cut mode here, I put 2. If you put 1 on the cut mode, sometimes it changes the cutter direction. And if here it says finish, my finish is always 0. That's how my machine comes, and I never change that. The reverse, I never change that. It's always like that. So your separate, it depends. If you like, you know, those type of jobs where you have to clamp it on the table, there are clamping devices along the way. So you want your cutter to lift higher as it goes to cut to the next point, or the next or the other side. So that has to be included from the surface of the job to the highest clamping device you have. So in this case, we don't have the top clamping device. So 20, as I said, 20mm as a surface height is fine. And your clearance, here it says 2. So your clearance is how much your cutter moves. If it's cutting from you know, from one point as it goes back to the, so it's, you know, like what your cutter, you know, so your clearance is more like when your cutter goes down to the job, it stays 2mm before it goes at rapid speed. Then as it reaches 2mm above the job, it picks up your exact feed rate. And here cutway, it says 0 for no, 1 for yes, and I've pressed 1, and we need cutway, so that when our cutter comes, if you press 0, your cutter comes exactly on a straight, then it plunges, it hits the job and it starts cutting. But in this way, when you put your cutway, it forms a radius. So if your cutter is 10mm, so it forms a 5mm radius. It comes here, as it reaches 5 from the exact points of the blocking. It makes a radius, a 5mm 10. Then it plunges on a job, or it starts machining more on a job more like on a radius type of way, so that your final product won't be having a mark at the end. And when it comes back again, as it machines, it goes all the way around, and when it comes back, it passes the point and it goes again. So at the end it's gonna form more like a radius. So it forms more like a radius there in its way out and in its way in. So we're gonna go to the image. The image says 0 for no, yes, and for that's X and Y, and that I've never put the image thing. The distance on X, mine remains on 0. Distance on Y remains on 0, and the scale, my scale is always on 1. ABC, ABSX, mine is always on 0, Y is 0. Rotation, I'm not even doing any rotation. I'm not even using the method of cutting. You know, this works when you want to machine like many walls on one, but you from using this one datum point. I've never used that, by the way, and number of times that you're gonna cut your block, or your block, or whatever you're gonna machine at that time, or whatever you're gonna do the programming for that time. So my times remains on 1, my mode 0, all those ABSX 0, what I've never used those. My machines in every one of those, mine remains 0. So if you're watching this tutorial and you wanna go and work on the C-Tek, using this the program that I'm doing, make sure that you have put zeros where it shows on my screen that it's 00. So if you come here on where it says NX, it's number in X, number in Y, then it says DX, that's difference in X and difference in Y. So you want to cut like 5 blocks and you've got like a 500 material long. That's when you can put number for block 5, number of blocks in Y. If it's Y, there's nothing, so it remains 1. And if the difference, so it depends. If your length, like our block is 70 millimeters, so you put like that 70, then you include your cutter diameter, where it's gonna cut between the block. But all that we'll do it in the next tutorials. So far we just wanna be focused on machining 1 block. So on number in X is gonna remain 1, number in Y 1. Difference, we're not doing more than 1, so it remains 0 and 0. Now we have to look at our X feed rate, X and Y feed rate. Since we're using an ANGIE 10 millimeter and we're cutting nylon, I mean that's like a flying jet. So we're gonna put when I cut nylon, I'll put my feed most of it on 2.5, more, even more. It depends how does your company runs it, or how do you do it. And at the end of the day, your finishing product, your finished product is what determines what speed rate and speeds you can use on machining it. So let's say we put 3000. That's the feed rate we're gonna put in X. And since we're plunging from the outside, we're not plunging on the job, we can put the maximum feed rate we have on the machine. I'll put it 8000 so it can go on rapid. So we're not going to put our machine on sleep after that, so our machine remains on sleep. So it says sleep 0 off, 1 on. So we're not going to put on. So we want our machine to keep on working. So we're not going to put it on sleep. If you press 1, after machining the job, the machine goes on off, goes on sleep. So display, I often put it on 1, then it shows me my block right as it is on the drawing. But if you press 0, it will come more in like a 3D type of view. And on the taper degree, remember if you're machining the top angles, if you're machining an angle from the top, that's why you need the taper degree. But we're not doing taper degree cutting here. It's just a plain normal rectangular block that we're cutting. And the finish option, mine is always on 1. I've never tried 2 or 3, but mine is always on 1. The tolerance, it's always 0.01. It's always 0.01. And my index number is always on 1. And I'm not doing 2 changing in this tutorial. So you see the way it says 2 number, my 2 number is on 0, my 2 diameter 0, my 2 length 0. If you're doing 2 changing, that's when you go and program for the 2s, and you have to come back here and you have to say, okay, that 2 is on 2 number this, and you have to put the 2 diameter and the length. You have to also put that the length of your 2 is on number what. And we look at our spin or speed here. We've got a 4000 spin or speed for nylon, and with a 10 millimeter carbide ANGIE cutter, it's not a bad. But I can take it higher a bit, and put it on 4.5, which is also good. And it goes down. But mine remains on 0 on C axis, and C axis difference, and then starting point. I've never programmed on those. And here it says coolant. This is a new machine of C-Tek that we just received at our workshop. And the previous machine I was working on, it didn't have these options where you have to set your coolant and your air on the machine. On program, you have to open on the pipe, open it manually from the pipe. But I mean, you want your coolant, you press 1. If I don't want coolant, like I'm machining nylon, so I'm not going to use coolant. more like air just for cleaning out. I'll set it on 1. So if you press enter, then it goes back to the first page of the first part of the page. So that we're done on setting out for our tool and our job. If I come back here, it says confirm save for Y. So we have to, you press back again. So then it gives you more like this blank page. So you don't press anywhere else, you just press back again up until it does optimizing of your geometry. If you pass the optimizing of your geometry, then you know that your drawing programming is perfect. So it comes back like to the first normal contour page that you got at the time you started doing your editing. So now the editing is done, and now you want to see if it's this is the exactly thing you're going to machine. You know what I like about the C-Tek is that, one, it shows you the drawing, and secondly, you do a proper kind of simulation on it. If I press it says simulate, so simulation, you want to see if the machine is gonna run exactly as you want from on the job. So we press F2 for simulate. You know, it gives you a feed rate. So I have to speed it up now just a bit. Here I can take it like to 4, 5, 6. You know, you can see that on the simulation there is the red line, or this is the material block. Then the red line, you can see that it's cutting outside, and it shows like a radius, but never mind that radius. It's not for the block. The block is square, but it's just that the cutter makes a radius because it's cutting on the outside. You know, and the way when I remember that cutway we put, and as I explained that your cutter comes in at a radius, it doesn't hit straight to the job. You can see on the simulation that it comes here. You can see that it makes a radius there, it comes out, and so that it shows you that it's going well. And if you check here, is it simulates on your coordinates here, you can see that your X, you can check your Y, you can check your cutting depth. You see now it's on -22. Up until you see, is it going exactly to -31? Is your feed rate and your speeds and feeds are exactly the same you want? It shows you more of those things as you do your simulation. But now it just shows faster on our feed rate, since we have multiplied our normal feed rate, our program feed rate. Now it shows 15,000. So if I put it like on times 9, I mean, that's like crazy type of it shows like 99,000 in simulation. So the simulation is done, and you can put your block and you can start the machining. So once your simulation is done and you want to go for machining, you just press back again, and it says here on execution, that's F3. So you execute, you just press F3. If I press like F3 now, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. If I press F3, the machine is gonna start running. You can see the machine is running, it's turning, but then it starts moving. But I've stopped my machine because I haven't put the block and I haven't done the edge finding and send the center finding for a block. But when the program goes on like that, that's when it starts all the programming as you have programmed. So that was it for this tutorial. And I hope you guys like it, and if you just like this tutorial, if you just like what I'm doing, just hit the like button and just share it. And if it's just give us some comments on how we can, what you want to expect in what you want me to teach you about, or what can I add on the next tutorial. Thank you for watching this.